Hello and welcome to our lesson. My name is Magister Cook and I will be guiding you through how to translate a basic Latin sentence. Whether you're learning Latin for school or just for fun, the study of the language will enhance your understanding of English. Remember, 60% of the English language has its roots in Latin. In this video, you will learn how to identify the subject of a Latin sentence based on its noun ending, how to identify the direct object of a Latin sentence based on its noun ending, how to recognize the subject of a Latin verb based on its verb ending, how to check for subject-verb agreement. Finally, most importantly, how to translate a simple Latin sentence. Here's what our lesson will cover. A brief review of first conjugation verb endings, a brief review of first declension noun endings with specific focus on subject and direct object endings, a short vocabulary list for our translation use, a guided translation of a simple Latin sentence, which includes parsing, the identification and diagramming of a Latin sentence, and defining and assembling words in the proper word order, also known as translation. Before we can start translating, let's do some review. I won't spend a lot of time on these charts, so pause the video if you need to do so. Here is a chart of the first declension noun endings. For our lesson, the nominative and accusative singular case endings are important. Take note of these endings. A noun in the nominative singular ends in A. A noun in the nominative case will be the subject of a sentence. The nominative noun does the actions of a verb. Our nominative subjects will be marked in red for this tutorial. An accusative singular noun ends in AM. A noun in the accusative case will be the direct object of a sentence. The direct object noun receives the action of a verb. Our accusative direct objects will be marked in blue for this tutorial. Next, let's review first conjugation verb endings. Here is a chart of verb endings for the present tense. For our lesson, the third person singular verb ending is important. The third person singular verb ending is T. A verb with a third person subject assumes the subject will be she, he, or it. It also expects a noun in the nominative case to be its subject, which means we will have to find the nominative noun in our sentence. Also important is subject-verb agreement. Verbs and their subjects must agree in number, which means a singular verb requires a singular subject, a plural verb requires a plural subject. A singular verb will never have a plural subject, and vice versa. Verbs will be marked in green for this tutorial. The last thing before we get started is our vocabulary list. We will only be using 3 words for our translation today, and here they are. The italicized texts are words in Latin. Poeta, poetae, masculine, a noun that means poet. Puella, puellae, feminine, a noun that means girl. And amo, amare, a verb that means to love. Notice that the 2 nouns have the same endings or final letters, an A and an AE. These correspond to the noun endings we reviewed earlier. Now that our review and vocabulary are out of the way, let's take a look at our Latin sentence. Poeta puellum amat. Do you recognize anything about the noun or verb endings from our earlier review? Before we can begin translating, however, we must conduct a process called parsing. Parsing a sentence means identifying each noun and verb, breaking it down into its case or person, and number. With that in mind, can you identify the cases and numbers of the 2 nouns in the sentence? How about the person and number of the verb? Pause the video and peek back at the noun and verb charts if needed. Let's dive deeper into parsing, beginning with our first noun, poeta. Notice that the word poeta has an A marked in red at the end of the word. Because the noun poeta has an A ending, we know it must be in the nominative case and singular. Because it is nominative, we therefore know it is the subject of our sentence. Recall from the vocab list that poeta means poet. Remember, we'll mark our subject in red. Parsing our next noun, the am ending of our puellum indicates that we are dealing with a singular noun in the accusative case. Because the noun is accusative, we know it will be the direct object of our sentence. Recall that it means girl, and remember that we'll mark our direct object in blue. Next, let's parse the verb, amat. With the ending t, we know that the subject is third person and singular. Because our subject has a third person's ending, it is expecting a nominative subject to agree with it in number. Recall that our verb amat means to love. Remember, we'll mark our verbs in green. With our parsing complete, here is our sentence with all its component parts and all words color-coded. Let's check subject-verb agreement. Do our verb and our subject, the nominative noun, agree in number? Because they're both singular, they do. Before we can translate our sentence, let's take a look at the difference between Latin and English word order. Latin word order is fairly fluid, but it tends to favor subject, object, verb word order. English, on the other hand, is rigid in its word order and follows a strict subject, verb, object word order. With that in mind, let's restructure our sentence from Latin word order to proper English word order. Recall that we have marked our subject in red, our direct object in blue, and our verb in green. Our restructured sentence now reads, Poeta amat puellam. This will make our translation much easier. It's officially time to translate. Do you remember the meanings of our Latin words? Poeta amat puellam. Our subject in red, our verb in green, our direct object in blue. The subject verbs the object. Therefore, the poet loves the girl. Congratulations, you've translated your first Latin sentence. Thank you for your hard work today. I'll tell you what I tell all my Latin students. You know Latin better than you think you do, and I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. Gratulationes ago, which is Latin for congratulations. Thank you for watching.